All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It's that time of the week, folks. My key games for this Saturday in the world of college football. I want to start off with a big one in the Big Ten as it is separation time in the Big Ten East. You're going to have the 10th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions traveling to take on the 5th ranked Michigan Wolverines. Michigan comes into this contest favored by 7 points over Penn State. And both of these clubs are undefeated, and they know that they want to get this one in order to stick around in that college football playoff race. Now, we've seen Penn State win in some hostile environments this year. They went on the road to Auburn. They also began the season with a road win at Purdue, which is not easy. But this right here is a big house at noon, and it's a little different bit of a beast, if you will. For Penn State to go out there and pull off the upset, I think Sean Clifford is going to have to play the best game of his life. You look at running backs, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, they're going to have a big time impact in this one, as Penn State really is going to have to dictate things at the line of scrimmage. Also, if the Nittany Lions offense can get going, keep an eye out for wide receiver Parker Washington. But on the flip side for Penn State, you got, pardon me, for Michigan, you got J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. This Michigan running game is solid with Blake Corum. And if they get going with their passing game, of course, Ronnie Bell is going to have to have an impact. Now, Michigan has the 5th ranked defense in the nation this year. They also have 22 sacks to their credit. And I think they're going to pin their ears back. I think that this crowd is going to be a factor in this game as well. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the Wolverines to get the 30-20 win. Now, in the Big 12 tomorrow, you're going to have 19th ranked Kansas traveling to Norman to take on Oklahoma. Now, the Sooners are favored by 9 points in this game. They got to get back on track because Oklahoma has lost their last 3 games, but they've been embarrassed in the process, especially on the defensive end. Now, Dylan Gabriel suffered that big hit against TCU recently. He is expected to play at quarterback in this one for the Sooners, and that's going to be big. Also, no Jalen Daniels at quarterback for Kansas, and that really changes the dynamic of things for the Jayhawks. Thus, I'm going to take Oklahoma at home in this one by the score of 38-27. Now, staying within the Big 12, you're going to have Iowa State traveling to Austin to take on the 22nd ranked Texas Longhorns. And for Texas, they definitely want to keep the momentum going after their big win over Oklahoma last week. However, they're playing a team with a much better defense in the Cyclones and the Sooners. So it's not going to be as easy for them to hang half a hundred on Iowa State like they did Oklahoma last week. Quinn Ewers is back at quarterback for Oklahoma. I mean for Texas, excuse me. We saw him get back into a rhythm last week. The Longhorns continue to run the game, run the ball solidly with Bijan Robinson, and that he is the engine for this Texas team. For Iowa State, it's been a bit of bad luck. They've lost their last 3 games, all by a combined 11 points. So, is there going to be a break for them? We'll have to wait and see. They have the number 11 defense in the country, but they got to try to find a way to stop Bijan Robinson. And what can quarterback Hunter Deckers and this offense do against the Longhorns? It's going to be tough for Iowa State. And for Texas, they definitely want to keep the momentum going. I think the Horns do that. And I think I'm going to take Texas at home by the score of 34-20. Now, in the Big Ten, you're going to have Minnesota traveling to take on the 24th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini. Now, in spite of being unranked, the Golden Gophers come into this contest favored by 6.5 points. But this is an important game here because you got to ask yourself, who is going to seize control in the Big Ten West? Each team in that division has at least one conference loss already. Somebody's going to win this division and somebody's going to get hot. We just got to wait and see who it is. But one thing you're going to see in this contest, a lot of defense. The Gophers head to Champaign with the number 1 defense in the nation, while Illinois is number 2. Now, a big return in the lineup for Minnesota, and this one is Muhammad Ibrahim at running back. He was out in Minnesota's last game, and of course, he is a spark plug for this offense. So it's going to be important for Illinois to really not allow Ibrahim to get going, because if he does, it could be a long afternoon. I talked about this Illini defense. Only one team has scored more than 20 points against Illinois this year, and that was Indiana. And over the Illini's last 4 games, they've only allowed a combined 19 points. It's kind of like the game with Wisconsin a few weeks ago for Illinois. I said the first team to 20 wins. And this one right here, I'm going to take the Illini at home by the score of 20-15. Now, one of the big ones that we're talking about for tomorrow, you're going to have the third-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide traveling to Neyland Stadium in Knoxville to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. The Tide come into this contest favored by 8 points, but more importantly, for the first time in a month of Sundays, the third Saturday in October means something. And you think about this Alabama Tennessee rivalry and what it meant to the SEC for so many years. And of course, we saw that stretch in the late 90s and early 2000s when Tennessee ascended to national prominence, that it was one sided in their favor. Then, of course, once Nick Saban took over at Alabama, things have really been one-sided in the direction of the Crimson Tide. We saw this Tennessee team under Josh Heupel take a big step earlier by going on by defeating Florida at home, and of course, the Gators have dominated that rivalry as well. This is another big one here for the Vols to overcome. Now, Tennessee has not defeated Alabama since 2006, and I think it's going to be important for the Volunteers to get off to a hot start at home with their offense, which is led by quarterback Hendon Hooker. On the flip side for Alabama, it wasn't pretty last week, but they got the win. Of course, no Bryce Young at quarterback as they were able to hold off a very game Texas A&M team. Now, Bryce Young is expected to play tomorrow. Alabama's had him on a pitch count in practice this week, but honestly, I really believe that you're going to see two Alabama quarterbacks out there. I think you're going to see Bryce Young, but I also think you're going to see Jalen Milroe at some point in this contest. Not to say that Bryce Young can't get it done, but I think Nick Saban is going to try to rely on that running game. We saw them reestablish their running game when Bryce Young went out a couple of weeks ago at Arkansas. And I think Saban is really going to try to mix it up in this contest with the running attack of Jahmyr Gibbs, Jace McClellan, and of course, Jalen Milroe. The Tide, they have the number 6 defense in the nation. It hasn't been pretty at times, but the bottom line is they know how to get up, go out there, and make plays, kind of like they did last Saturday night to close out the game against Texas A&M. A lot of NFL talent that you consistently hear me talk about on this defense for Alabama, led by Will Anderson. And I think they're going to try to find a way to, rise to the occasion once again. Alabama is not going to be phased by going into Neyland Stadium, playing in front of 100,000 crazed Tennessee fans. And you know what? Tennessee's going to bring their A game, and so is Alabama. But I think the Crimson Tide survive with the 35-30 win. Now, in the Big 12, you're going to have the eighth ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys traveling to Fort Worth to take on the 13th ranked TCU Horned Frogs. These are two of the final 3 teams that have undefeated records still within the Big 12 conference. So this is an important one here. And for the Cowboys, they have a calm, cool, and collected veteran at quarterback in Spencer Sanders. And that's so important to this team. You got to like the way that TCU quarterback Max Duggan is playing under new head coach Sonny Dykes, and especially the way that running back Kendre Miller is running the football. But, everything is pointing in the favor of the Horned Frogs. This game is at home tomorrow. They're favored by 4 points. But honestly, I just love the savvy of Oklahoma State. And because of that, I'm going to take the Cowboys on the road by the score of 38-37. Now, in the ACC, you're going to have the 15th ranked NC State Wolfpack traveling to Syracuse to take on the 18th ranked Orange. The winner definitely wants to try to find a way to keep up with Clemson, while the loser will be fighting an uphill battle in the Atlantic, especially in the case of NC State, because they've already lost to Clemson. Now, the Wolfpack have the number 17 defense, and they also have 9 interceptions. And I think it's going to be important for NC State to get off to a strong start in each phase of the game because as Syracuse continues to get wins, the fans are really getting out there and supporting their team. And if you watch this Syracuse program over the years, when Syracuse is on top of their game, that dome can get very noisy. You look at the Syracuse; they have the number 10 defense as well, and they got to try to find a way to go out there and make life tough for Wolfpack quarterback Devin Leary. Will they be able to do it? We got to wait and see. I think this is a back and forth, nip and tuck game, but at the end, I think that Syracuse finds a way to pull it out at home by the score of 30-27. Now, tomorrow night in Gainesville, you're going to have the Florida Gators hosting the LSU Tigers. Now, Florida comes into this contest favored by 2.5 points over the Bayou Bengals. And this to me is a swing game in the SEC. And I say that because both of these teams have first year head coaches. Of course, Brian Kelly for LSU and Billy Napier for Florida. Both of these teams are 4-2. And both of these coaches are trying to get their footing with their programs here in year number one at their respective institutions. And at this point, with a win, 5-2 sounds a lot better than 4-3 heading into the stretch run here in the season. Now, of course, Jaden Daniels has gotten his feet wet as far as SEC play goes, and he's going to have to deal with a tough Florida defense. Now, we've seen the Gators be able to move the football in every contest this year. It just comes down to their ball protection, most notably quarterback Anthony Richardson, as he has 5 touchdowns, but he also has 7 interceptions, which ain't good. I think Florida definitely tries to rely on their running game with Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson. And this is going to be a back and forth one, but I think that Florida finds a way to get it done at home. And I'm going to take the Gators with the 30-27 win. Now, tomorrow night, you're going to have the fourth ranked Clemson Tigers traveling to Tallahassee to take on the Florida State Seminoles. Now, the Seminoles started off strong, but they lost their last two winnable games. But, they got to try to find a way to overcome that, if they really want to find themselves back on the national scene. We know about what Jordan Travis can do at quarterback for Florida State, as well as wide receivers Johnny Wilson and Ontario Wilson, and this running game for Trayshawn Ward. But this Florida State defense has to find a way to slow down this Clemson offense. As the weeks progress, DJU continues to get a lot of confidence at quarterback for the Tigers, and he's not looking like the quarterback that he was last year. When you saw DJU play last year, he seemed like he was unsure of himself, trying to get caught up to the game speed of the ACC. And right now, this young man has his footing. And of course, as he goes right now, so do the fortunes of this Clemson offense. With the Tigers under Dabo Sweeney, they're going to play stout defense. And I could see Clemson trying to force or possibly forcing 1 or 2 turnovers in this contest that could be the difference. Thus, I'm going to take the Tigers on the road by the score of 38-27. Now, back in the SEC, you're going to have the 16th ranked Mississippi State Bulldogs traveling to Lexington to take on the 22nd ranked Kentucky Wildcats. And for the Wildcats, they got to find a way to get back on track. Of course, the Will Levis injury hurt them. Now he's back. He's ready to go. You got Chris Rodriguez back at running back. And that's going to make things easier for wide receiver Tavion Robinson. But you look at this Mississippi State team, and the bottom line is, I don't think that the nation is really giving them credit for being the good football team that they are. Typically, when you think about Mike Leach, you think about the air raid, spreading the football out around and throwing it. But this team plays defense. They get after you. Jet Johnson is one of the better linebackers in the SEC. And with that said, I think that the Bulldogs have what it takes to go on the road and get the win. And I'm going to take Mississippi State tomorrow night by the score of 38-27. And finally, in the Pac 12, you're going to have the 7th ranked USC Trojans traveling to Rice Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City to take on the 20th ranked Utes of Utah. Now, hands down, this is the biggest test so far for Mike Riley and the men of Troy. They come into this contest undefeated, and they're probably the Pac 12's best chance to get to the playoff. But with that said, Utah is no pushover. And if you've seen what the Utes have done since joining the Pac 12, they have consistently been a thorn in the side of USC. It's going to be noisy there tomorrow night. And I think it's going to be very important for this USC offense led by quarterback Caleb Williams that once you get inside the 25, not just inside the red zone, inside the 25, you got to put up sevens and not threes. That's going to be the big thing because you got to find a way to take this crowd out of the game because the bottom line is the Utah fans are very passionate. And if it's a close game, you know what? They know that they can smell blood and really try to help turn the tide right there. USC has all of the talent on offense. You have to love the way that the Trojans are getting after teams defensively as well. But they got to try to find a way to slow down Utah quarterback Cam Rising in order to make him one dimensional. This is going to be a back and forth affair. It's a night game in Salt Lake City, definitely advantage to Utah. And I just don't see the Utes losing two games in a row, especially after they lost in the fashion that they did last week at the Rose Bowl to USC, pardon me, to UCLA. Thus, I'm going to take Utah to rebound in this one by the score of 30-29. So, folks, those are my picks for this Saturday in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.